Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 31 today for the Canadian Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But heading into this then, we've only got 2 days till Montreal, so not a lot of time to choose from the activity timelines, not too much to choose from. So we're going to go ahead with a sponsor event to try and boost the team acclaim as per usual. But we do have an interesting kind of moment and in the career mode decision to make, I guess, where we've got a lot of decent cash now. You know, we're well over that kind of, 8 million mark we need for science and some, obviously, to feel safe and maybe purchase an upgrade on the HQ. But now I'm at this stage where, R&D wise, I think we're going to invest in the aero side, but those are 4 major upgrades, so that will take some time. So we're not going to really be bottlenecked by our R&D tree anytime soon. So I'm going to put it down to you guys, put a vote out there. What department do you want me to invest in? And every department is here on the table. So literally all 4 performance parts. So the engine side, the aero, chassis or durability on the car, all the actual team stuff, like either personnel or the marketing. I'll put a straw poll in the description and the comments below. I'll kind of pin it as top comment. And yeah, just vote on what department you want to see me invest some money into. In terms of the specifics of what I'll invest in the department, I'll kind of choose, because obviously some upgrades cost more than others. But in terms of where you want me to put that money, let me know in the vote, basically, because obviously, as I said before, I want you guys to be like the board of directors with this career mode series, and I very much have got to the point where I don't really feel strongly about any one department right now. So let's put it down to you guys. What are you guys feeling the team kind of needs, or what do you want to see me invest in, basically, for this point of the career? But apart from that, there's not really too much to go through. Of course, we're still saving R&D points for those upgrades. Like I said, they all cost They all cost at least 1,300 R&D points, and those are just the cheapest ones. I think the further ones cost, over 1,500. So we've got this kind of weird stage right now where we're definitely going to plateau for at least an episode or 2, I would say, into this one. Although, to be fair, where our car strengths are, and looking at the pace we had at Azerbaijan, yes, I know we had to come back through a lot of traffic, but our car was very decent around Azerbaijan in terms of race pace, especially getting through cars very quickly in a straight line, and that's going to bode well for us here at Montreal. So as we go into the race weekend, heading in towards qualifying, looking forward to this one. Of course, on top of the car being strong, I, of course, am strong in Canada. I love it. It's one of my favorite circuits to race on the F1 games in the years gone by. Last season, I will admit, I did say this to you guys in the video, that Montreal, I think they've slightly altered the track and the width and stuff like that in Sector 1, and it did kind of throw the flow off a little bit to me, and the car itself was just quite bad. But anyway, the thing is, I think we'll go well around here, and I'm looking to try and qualify nice and high and not do what we did at Azerbaijan, of course, and get knocked out on accident. And we're looking mighty strong in Q1, but I'm sure they'll be speeding up as we enter Auto Q2. Yet again, we hit some issues that we have to kind of wait in the garage for.
You're sitting comfortably, mate. We've got a sensor issue, and we're going to be stuck here for a while as we fix it.
So I don't know what it is with iCar. I don't know maybe if you guys are getting this as well, but I've had quite a few of these like little issues where I'm, losing time in the garage. Obviously, this one's not a major one. I have to wait 2 minutes, whereas the one we had at Monaco Q3, that was definitely piling on the pressure in terms of, I could only have 1 run, whereas this wasn't that bad. I can still have 2 runs if I want to in Q2. The hope is I don't need to, but it wasn't as good of a lap as I wanted it to, and definitely not matching really how comfortable we're looking in Q1, because everyone's sped up as well, and we're down in P7, and also it's very close. You can see there's only 2 tenths in it down to P12 Gasly, and honestly, I don't think that's safe enough. So with 2 tenths in it, I think we need to improve. So we go out for a second run, unfortunately, and have to burn another set of soft tires. But as we go on to that second flyer, we're met with another issue, and for the second time this season, our DRS is stuck open. I don't know if this is becoming like a characteristic of the car, like a kind of annoying issue and crux issue on the car, that our DRS is prone to getting stuck open every few races. But this is the first time ever, well, at Hanoi, it was the first time I had my DRS stuck open in a race when it actually mattered. That was the first time I've ever experienced that in an F1 game. But this is the first time I've ever experienced the same sort of failure stuck open twice in a season, any session. They're usually quite super rare events. So to get it twice, I don't know. Is our car has developed this kind of fault that's going to reoccur every single time? So I could could not go again on that second fly. So I had to sit there and just pray that was enough. Thankfully, it is going to be enough. We end up in P8 then, going to the top 10 shootout of qualifying. But for a moment there, I thought that was going to be another moment of annoyingly getting knocked out way earlier than we really want and need to in terms of where the car is. I think there's clearly some pace in there. And so thankfully we can move through and crisis averted into the top 10 shootout. So here we are then at the end of our first flying lap. We've got 2 free sets to use, of course, because we did actually make it through in the end on 1 set. This is the set I basically went out on with the DRS failure, so there was only like 1 or 2% of actual wear, so it's pretty much near enough like a full brand new spanking set because we didn't obviously use it in anger in Q2. So through the last chicane, trying to take that as fast as we can without cutting the curb too much, opening the DRS across the line, and it is mega close, 5 thousandths that is, or hundredths rather, to Sainz there in P2. So right now it was a 1-2. Vettel then splits us, but it's so supremely close between myself, Sainz, and Vettel, which is great because obviously remember Vettel is my on-track rival, so it's actually really neat that the battle for pole seems to be between my teammate and my on-track rival. So here we are then starting our second fly. This is it then. We have a chance of pole. Sainz right now on provisional pole, but we have the car to do it as we go through to the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2. It's a purple first sector. Not too much improved though, but here you're about to see we must have got some horrendous traction. This time, hook it up really sweet. Gain about 3/10 in just the exit corner alone. And then to the line, keeping that 3/10 advantage across the line. Purple last sector that was. We maintain that 3/10 advantage to get our very first pole position of this entire game and in my team career mode. And the second pole for the team, of course, because Sainz has been there before at the Dutch GP, but this is our first pole. And obviously, you guys know pole position for me is a very rare event, so soak it in. It's not often I get pole. I'm not a great qualifier, but there we are. Obviously, proving that Canada is one of my favorite circuits, but Sainz is right there as well. Only 2/10 off. Hamilton put a much better lap time in the end to actually pull that Mercedes out, but Bottas a little bit slower than the Ferrari, which I'm surprised at. So maybe Merck now a little bit susceptible, at least with their second driver during qualifying and the race. So it's going to be an interesting one tomorrow. The first time going off pole, we've had some great starts all throughout this entire game, so I imagine we can hopefully maintain first place off the Friday lights, but then it's a question of how's the tyre wear going to go, how's the race pace going to be for all the cars behind me as well, chasing after me rather than me chasing them. So let's go to the grid and see how we do.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. With top speeds of around 210 miles per hour heading into the overtaking opportunity of turn 13, the 2.7 miles of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve are some of the quickest on the Formula One calendar. There are 14 corners in total, with 60% of the lap taken at full throttle, and average lap speeds clock in at about 130 miles per hour. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. It's the owner-driver in pole position then, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen, and Gasly, Ocon, Ricciardo, Norris, and Sergio Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Alexander Albon, and Kvyat, Bottas, Giovinazzi, Roman Grosjean, and Kevin Magnussen, Russell, Matsushita, Aitken, and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
Alright, so here we are then on the grid looking ahead to our race strategy. We've got a very interesting race that I did not actually realise there was going to be some rain involved. This entire time, the forecast I thought was all clear skies, but I guess not overcast. And then we've got a little bit of rain, and it goes back to dry and actually sunny and cloudy at the end. So we've got a big mixture of weather on our way. So this is going to be, well, this could be quite a classic. Obviously, so many races out of Canada that have been mixed conditions have been very, very juicy. But for us, this also puts on pressure for us to obviously maintain the lead somehow through all these different conditions. So we've got a short and sweet soft tire stint. Then I probably would say we're going to have to go straight onto inters. I would say that's on the line edge of the tire wear, you know, being too much to handle, and going on to the intermediates. I'm hoping the rain actually comes sooner rather than later. Otherwise, that'll be quite a tricky thing to try and manage if, you know, very worn tires whilst the track gets slippery. And then just kind of seeing that, you know, portion the race out. That's where I feel the AI may be quicker, because on this game they're not overly powerful on wet conditions, but I feel they definitely are at least a little bit better. But it's not as bad as it used to be on 2019. So we just have to try and survive that portion of the race, and then hopefully we're in a position to still be leading or fighting for the win in that dry condition, where it seems to be at least a good you know, third of the race will end on slick tires. And I imagine probably 2 sets of mediums or 1 set of hards. We'll see how it goes. We'll cross that bridge once we get to it, basically. But we're on pole, so we're in the best seat in the house. It's ours to control, so we've just got to do the best job we can. We've already won 1 race this season at Monaco, but I thought this was the one we'd win our first race at. So let's prove that and go out today and win this one as well. As we now go to 5 red lights to the Canadian Grand Prix here in a very gloomy Montreal, but from pole position, fire lights are out and we are underway. It's a good start for us. Equally though, Hamilton gets a good launch into turn 1, defensive. He's on the outside. Into turn 2 though, he's not going to keep his nose in there, and we're going to maintain the lead ahead of Hamilton. Vettel 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Verstappen 5th. Sainz, of course, you would have seen on the grid sequence, he had a grid penalty, so potentially durability is a place we need to look at, but he's down the order, so he's going to have to make his way through. But into sector 1, already Hamilton pressurizing us, and we lock up very badly on the front left. Hamilton's on the inside, and he's absolutely done us on the outside there. So we did all the hard work on the race start, and sector 1 went well. As soon as we entered sector 2, it all just fell away there. Went too deep into that corner. You know, he pressurized us, to be fair, so he kind of almost forced me into the mistake as we locked up on the front left. But obviously heavy fuel, easy mistake to make, and you can see him locking up again. So right now getting a little bit flustered, need to try and find our feet on the rear end as well, because throughout qualifying actually the rear end was stepping out quite a fair bit. I'm running I think 5.5 or 4.4 wings, so a little bit low to make sure we're good in a straight line, but that means the rear end maybe isn't as planted as I want it to be necessarily. And on heavy fuel for sure it is well, you can clearly see with the large amount of oversteer there on the exit of the last corner onto lap number 2, it is very much not as planted as I want it to be at this stage of the race. And Hamilton leads the way, setting purple, so he's taken that control from us. So can we try and fight back straight away though? Lap number 2 a little bit better, second sector purple, and we're gaining on him. It's just a case of finding the speed and straight line to actually get the job done as it stands, keeping up in the corners. But we're going to maybe try and save some ERS now on this lap. We've set a purple last sector to go fastest of all, so we've got the pace clearly to try and come back at him. We obviously have the pace to get pole position. It's just a case of obviously settling into the rhythm and getting that race pace going. And even though we're red on the first and 2 sectors, it's because we've saved all the ERS now. So we're going to use overtake mode all the way down this straight. First time we've got DRS activated in this Grand Prix. Now we're going to go for the move on the outside into the last chicane. It's so fine as Hamilton tries to pinch us into the curb. It's now a drag race. We're neck and neck. We're jockeying for position. We're through on the left-hand side, and we got the job done before we even get to the brake zone at turn 1, and we're back up into the lead of this Grand Prix. But for how much longer as we go on to the end of lap number 4 towards the hairpin? Hamilton looking dangerous. We're a little bit slow into this. Easy does it, not wanting to go too deep, and in doing so we actually defend so harshly against Hamilton, even though I just went down the inside. But Hamilton tries to go around the outside, doesn't work out for him, and Vettel gets him. So the Ferrari is now to second place as the rain starts to come down. Look at the halo, look at the spurts of bits of rain coming off the tyre now. The water is coming, and we're going a little bit too deep now into the hairpin. A lot of understeer. Vettel's got his nose in. We're so close to the wall as well. Bit of oversteer as well, trying to get the power down, and overtake mode engaged to push away, because look at the speed difference we have. Once we engage it, we can really just waltz away from Vettel. But under braking in the corners now It's getting very slippery, and the AI are very good. For all the AI mistakes they make on this year's game, they can generally be pin perfect with the acceleration and the braking. So in these conditions, very tough to try and keep them behind, and Vettel is really nipping at my heels now as we are on to lap number 6. It is very much time, I feel personally, to come in. For some reason, Jeff is asking me to change strategy onto a set of dry tyres. Don't know what he's on, but I've changed it manually to intermediates to make sure and guarantee we don't have a muck up there. But that's definitely something that needs to be looked into for a patch, hopefully, because Jeff keeps on saying these really just useless strategies. But anyway, that's beside the point. We are in now. We were in first. Vettel was second. Let's see now. Pit stop. Hopefully, no mistakes there. Green wall, intermediate tyres on, and we remain ahead of that entire gaggle of cars. So he should still be in first place once everyone makes their pit stops. But now this is the zone of the race where it is just about surviving, really. You know, we've done that short stint on soft tyres. We make it through this stint, which should be pretty short as well, maybe another 7 laps, and then we get through to the second portion of the race where it should become sunny and dry again. But it's very treacherous, as you can see there. Massive snap of oversteer, and again wide into that same corner. We lost the race lead to Hamilton earlier on lap number 1, so we need to be wary of that. Vettel chasing after us. We've got Gasly in third place then, just over Esteban Ocon in the McLaren. They both jumped Hamilton, so those two, they were, you know, firmly in the midfield fight, I think. You know, both Gasly and Ocon didn't qualify too high, but now they're way up the order, and they're looking very strong indeed. And so there's some more people between ourselves and the championship leader, Hamilton, which is, I guess, good news in that kind of sense, but obviously just better news in terms of one less top car to fight me. But to be fair, I don't think Vettel needs any help in fighting me, because he's right there pressurizing us. He's closed the gap. That was about 2-3 seconds in a matter of 2 laps. So you can see I've just not got the same confidence. The rear end is snapping constantly off as we try and accelerate out these corners. And now lap number 11 into the hairpin, a place I'm already weak at in the dry, let alone the wet. Double lock up for us, no grip whatsoever under braking, and Vettel slides through down the inside. He's up into first place. We look to try and stick with him, but like I said, our very traction zone, we're just so poor. That's why Vettel's closed that gap up so quickly. So once again, the AI proving to be quite strong in these conditions, and you know, the survival that we just talked about hasn't gone well. We've lost first place, but as long as we can stick with Vettel, I'm confident we should have the tools to come back and fight him once the rain subsides. But the thing is, in these conditions, I've just got no chance. Basically, you're about to see later on in this same lap, just look at the way he waltzes away at every single corner exit, and he's already now out of the kind of 1 second range for, well, you know, what would be DRS, but kind of basically just slipstream, you know, distance basically to keep up with him with overtake mode. We've just got no chance, so we've just got to get this through to the end of this stint, and that won't be too far away though, because literally on the next lap, lap 13, I already kind of felt like the grip was going away, and maybe that was because the rain's already drying up, because it stopped raining. It's still pretty overcast, but already now you can see my engineer again, Jeff, asks for a change of strategy to, again, just a useless one. But at this stage, I'm looking to swap over onto the dry tyres again, even though it looks quite damp out there. I think it's definitely time for the slicks again. I wasn't sure what tyre to go on, so that's why you saw there on the right-hand side, I was looking at the menu to see if there's any way I could ask what people were doing or what, you know, the recommended would be, but we're just going to go with mediums. We've got still quite a long way to go. To say we've done 2 pit stops here, you know, 2 very different stints. We're only on lap 13 out of 35, so I think 2 sets of mediums to the end of this Grand Prix will be the way to go. So effectively, it's almost like the natural dry pit stop strategy, just with an added intermediate in the middle there. So onto a set of yellow wall tyres. We're behind Vettel now in a net P2 position, as it will be once everyone makes their pit stop. But like I said, we're still within kind of attacking range, you know, within a few seconds. So I think if we just get our head down, we should be able to close up to him and try and attack and get that first place back. And that's exactly now what we're trying to wind up and do on lap number 16. Within 1 second now, we've got a, you know, a somewhat small, healthy gap to Gasly behind, who, by the way, still doing a great job in the AlphaTauri. Also, Ocon and Fiat as well now in the Renault. So a lot of the midfield guys are jumping the top cars. Only me and Vettel managed to survive this kind of, you know, changeable conditions period and all these extra pit stops here. And so some people have really made some good jumps. But as we swing through into now lap number 18, red first and second sector. That's because I've been saving all the ERS, as you saw, deploying it all down that straight, which means DRS open across the line, purple last sector, and Vettel did set the fast lap of the Grand Prix. We now steal it away. So you can see both of us are pushing each other really hard. The gap is now nearly 5 seconds seconds to Gasly in the span of just 2-3 laps. So we're really in a different world, myself and Vettel. But as we're gaining and gaining on lap number 19, we're just unable to just have that extra little bit to make the move like we did on Hamilton. So at this moment in time, stuck behind Vettel in a bit of a DRS train and kind of unable to have the overall speed. I guess he's using a lot of overtake mode, but that very point might bode well for us because we move on to lap number 20, and this feels a little bit different. We're a little bit closer now to the hairpin, and we've again saved all the DRS, and so let's try it this time around. We are a little bit closer than we were on lap number 19, activating overtake mode. DRS will pop up. Rich Mix, of course, engaged the entire time, and this time we are flying at the Ferrari, and Vettel is so slow on the straights this time, so he must have ran out of ERS basically. So that's where the upgrades we brought to the car in the last few episodes have really paid dividends, and we've just walked past him very easily now into the lead of this Canadian Grand Prix once again. But as was the case earlier on in the Grand Prix, you can see the rear end is still not exactly planted on our car, and as Vettel's pushing us hard to push ourselves, we make a mistake there and into the hairpin that allows him to go around the outside. We lock up badly to try and get things slowed down and also give him the room crucially, and instead he actually uses that to his advantage to just walk around the outside. We use overtake mode at the exit. It's a drag race now. We're wheel to wheel and we're trying to get the advantage on Vettel, but he's really applying the pressure quite nicely, and just like in real life, the ebb and flow, you know, he'll have ERS now to use because he basically didn't use any when we overtook him previously, so he's going to have maybe some straight line speed to use against us. And so we go defensive to the inside of turn 1. He's got DRS and he goes and sails it round, and to the inside of turn 2. We're still neck and neck trying to get the power down as early as we can, but the Ferrari car's got some great traction. Overtake mode again to try and get us in, but it's still side by side into the next chicane down the hill. Vettel hits us on the front right as it gets very hairy now, and we continue this battle into sector 2. How long will this go on for as we now pay the favour back and tap him on his front left tyre? We get the traction on the outside and get back up into first place comfortably, but trying to break the toe, move around a little bit, but not completely weaving on the straight, of course, and we are going to keep that through, but just Vettel's applying so much pressure for first place now. This is becoming a real big fight for first. I thought once we walked past him so easy, I thought that was basically end of story, but he just won't give up here, and we're basically all the way back to where we started on this straight where he first tried to overtake us into the hairpin. Lap 23, is he going to have a go here? Does he have the speed? Doesn't look like it, and as we move through to lap 24, the very next lap, we come in, he comes in. It's time for that second pit stop now in this part of the race, the second medium tyre, but my word, that was such a hard thing to try and defend. He was just relentless, you know, at the hairpin, you know, drag rate. The Ferrari's obviously very good in a straight line in the game, unlike in real life, because due to the Ferrari engine being a lot better than it really should be right now with the kind of engine performance and whatnot with the patch still to come. But then in the corners there, into turn 1, I was shocked Vettel got it around the outside for one, and then he kept his foot in the entire time in sector 1, down the chicane, through into the next left-hander. Very impressive stuff, but we've held him off, and now we've got some breathing space because Kvyat is in between us, as well as some other cars yet to come in on lap, as we go on to lap 28. We're in P2 now because the likes of Gasly have opted to go longer on their first medium tyre stint, as is Hamilton up ahead of us, and they're all going to pit onto soft tyres, so that might be one to watch at the end of this Grand Prix, but it means we have to wait until lap 29 to actually get back up into first place, but that's not an issue now. We've got breathing room, and it's actually even more than that because Kvyat's still ahead of Vettel. I don't know how they've done this. There've been so many, we've already said it before, so many midfield cars have just jumped so many of the top guys. You know, Gasly did it, Sainz, Ocon did it, and now Kvyat is legitimately there in second place in a Renault. So it's a nice little buffer between myself and Vettel. So now we just try and see this through. Leclerc set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, so definitely we can maybe try and go faster, and that's exactly what we'll do as we move on towards lap number 35, the last lap of this Grand Prix. You can see on the top left, we've set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix now. So, you know, that Leclerc lap basically gave me the kick up the arse to try and get that fast lap, to try and get one extra point in the championship, of course, and also just show what kind of pace we have in the car, basically, to prove that even though Kvyat's there, keep us pretty honest, it's because, you know, I'd rather just try and make sure we stay all safe and not push too hard to, you know, go off and make a mistake or whatnot, because obviously we've made quite a few of those in the past, and it's kind of cost us some positions. Meanwhile, though, on this last lap, Vettel and indeed the entire train of cars behind the Russian in the Renault. They're trying to pressurize him to try and make a last lap overtake. And you know what? The Renault is very poor off that right-hander. And Vettel is round on the outside, the left-hand side. It's a big old squeeze there by Kvyat. But Vettel gets the elbows out and gets the job done. And in the background also, watch out for the AlphaTauri. He may make a move. It's Sergio Perez on the outside of the Renault. Sainz in the background. Could he make a last lap overtake? I wonder. But Perez is through. So Vettel on the last lap gets up into second place. Perez in the AlphaTauri in third. Kvyat is in fourth. Sainz is right up his chuff though. So maybe he could get snagged P4. But for us, it doesn't matter. What matters here is we come through the last two corners and we're going to weave around and gloat as it's the win, pole and the fastest lap at the Canadian Grand Prix, proving once again this is why it is my favourite circuit. Love it down here in Montreal. Absolutely awesome. Our second win of this season, and in some style, what a race. Dry, wet, dry, fighting for the lead with Hamilton, Vettel. It had it all, and we've come out on top.
Another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
The faces on our top three look so incredibly happy as they make their way up to the podium. A much-deserved victory and a brilliant performance from them all.
Absolutely beaming smile there on the face of my character as it's the win at Canada. Although I must say, to be fair play to Vettel and Perez. Great moves at the end on the last lap. Surprised, really, that they continue to surprise me with the aggression level sometimes with those last lap overtakes. Shame Sainz couldn't quite get Kvyat there. But to be fair, it's actually a stonking result for the Russian in the Renault in P4, I must say. Gasly P5. So in the end, the AlphaTauri's had a great result. Again, I love it. You know, I just love laughing at it. The AlphaTauri are very much legitimately beating Red Bull at this stage of the season, at least. Perez is in P5 in the championship, but let's pause this for a second. We're in first place somehow. How's this happened? Hamilton's in second because he had a very weak race, of course. I think he only got P8 it was, so, you know, 4 points, but still, I did not see this coming in the last 2 episodes. I know we won at Monaco, but we were still quite a few points off Hamilton, but we're somehow in the lead of the championship. I don't feel like we should. I kind of almost got imposter syndrome. I don't feel like we should be here. But obviously the evidence, you know, showing our cars won the last 2 races out of 3, isn't it? Is it not? So, you know, yeah, our car is pretty quick at this stage. But obviously I am taking this very, very tentatively because I never expected to be in a championship fight in Season 2 of my team. So I'm just not quite convinced yet. But let's just see how it goes. In the Constructors, we're nowhere near Mercedes quite. Well, I say nowhere near. We're not near them. There is a bit of a, you know, difference now from a few races ago. We are within touching distance, maybe, if we got like a 1-2 in the races to come. But we've still got some work to do. Ferrari up into P3 with Vettel doing a good job. Fair play. AlphaTauri move up ahead of Racing Point, as they should do. They've been great in the last few races. And they may look to try and close up on their more senior team, Red Bull, which would be quite tasty indeed. But for us, what our race that was. Obviously, that was the full sweep, wasn't it? The pole, fast lap, and the win there. So, pretty pitch-perfect weekend for us at Montreal. And on top of that, we get the full bonus payout, 1.41 million. So, we now have a total of $19.18 million in the bank. So, as I said, vote, guys, in the comments below on the description on what you want me to spend that money on, or some of that money on the HQ upgrades for next episode. But if you guys did enjoy that one, be sure to smash like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. I hope you guys enjoy us today. Goodbye.